Geordie Journos outside Old Trafford, where Newcastle United have just been beaten 3-2 by Manchester United. Disappointing evening, frustrating evening, a lot to talk about. I guess one place to start, obviously the 3-2 defeat. Jordan, what were your thoughts on it?
Woeful defending. 3 very, very poor goals to concede. Starting with the first one, Kieran Trippier, has he been brought in from the cold? 9 weeks. First start 9 weeks. I mean, I don't disagree with the decision to start him, but I thought he was a player that looked really, really rusty today, and a player that looked tired quite easily actually, because there was a moment before he's played Manu on side. I think it was Garnacho's had a shot saved from a tight angle by Martin Dubravka, and Trippier was almost jogging back, so he looked like a player that was fatigued from the start, and it was no surprise to see him brought off midway through that second half. But yeah, I mean, not just Trippier on that move, but the whole move as well, how Ahmad somehow, it's such a weak pass, but somehow just found its way through to Manu, who's free. So that's your first poor goal. The second one, when Jacob Murphy clears a head out of the front post, falls straight to Ahmad. Great finish, to be fair, powerful finish. And then the third one as well. Hoyland, a player that has been so out of form, waltzes past 2 players.
Less than 2 minutes after coming on.
And it's more, I think it was more Byrne than Hall, which I'm sure will come on to Hall. But it's a player that's lacking so much confidence, hasn't scored in so many games, and just waltzes through. And could Martin Dubravka done better for a couple of the goals? Possibly. But yeah, I just
absolutely.
Thought. So what I would say about, because the Ahmad one I thought was a really powerful effort, so I think it's really difficult to get that one. But I thought
doesn't have far to go though.
But even the first goal, actually, I thought that the finish was almost like he passed it in the net, was quite tame. And then the third one, it's
he should say the third one.
He should. And it was three really poor goals to concede, and then Newcastle have had chances in that game. I think it was an off day for a lot of the best players, if you like. Gordon, for as good as he was, wasted a lot of opportunities in that final third, I thought. But of course, always Newcastle's danger man. Even when he's not quite fully at it, he's still Newcastle's live wire, if you like. So I don't want to be too harsh on him, but I thought the likes of your Brunos and Isaacs had a real off day today, particularly Isak, as he's still suffering from the effects of that illness. Possibly he has that chance to make it 2-1, and you know that chance comes a few weeks back. He scores that. I know you touched upon maybe could a Gordon's pass have been better, but for me, Isak in any situation always finds a way to finish. And I thought he would come back on his right foot, but he's took with his left foot straight away. Obviously Amrabat's took the effort onto the top of the crossbar. It's just moments like that, poor defending and real good opportunities that they fail to convert. So just a really disappointing evening, because Newcastle have surrendered their surrendered control of 6th. They can still get 7th, but that 6th spot was in their hands, and now it's not. And ultimately they've got to be relying sort of from a favour from Bournemouth on the final day to finish 6th, but they've also got a job to do themselves in terms of hanging on to 7th.
I think that's very much been the tale of the season. I think it's probably only felt in the last fortnight that they've had any grasp on their own season, whether it be at the start of the season where they were almost playing catch up and climbing to get into that top 4 mix. After the struggles, they've kind of always been playing catch up from higher mid-table to be in the European mix. It's only really been those 2 results against Sheffield United and Burnley that put the destiny back in their own hands, and struggles from teams like this. Chelsea found some late form, or clinical in the way they've gone about things. Newcastle United have been anything but clinical, I think.
Past 2 games.
I don't think they were good enough against Brighton, and I think everybody says you can look back on games throughout the season, this, that and the other, decisions, whatever. I actually only look back on the last 3 games. They were presented with an opportunity with 3 games to go that probably one win out of that 3 would buy you at least a ticket to the lottery for Europe, which is now they still find themselves with 1 game to go. 1 win will probably buy them a ticket to the lottery to Europe. It will definitely do that. They'll of course most likely, Chelsea only need a result at home against Bournemouth. Remember, they don't need anything else because they've stretched 3 points ahead with 1 game to go. Newcastle United, because of goal difference, only need to equal what Manchester United do. But Manchester United go to an absolutely woeful Brighton, by the way. Brighton are woeful. And the only team they've really got a result against in recent times, I think they won a game against Villa, who were having their own end of season wobbles, was Newcastle United, and they were fully deserving of a point at St James's Park. I think that's where, if they don't make European football, having worked so hard and the credit they deserve to get themselves with all the adversity into a position to win a European place, when they've won that opportunity, they look like, to me, they burnt it last week. I think 3 games to go, you only need to win one of them. You've got Brighton, who can barely buy a win going back months, and they didn't beat them at home. It was a golden opportunity. To expect that to then be followed, I've seen a lot of positivity among the fan base, and I'm all for positivity, but I've always talked about the idea of realism, and realism was, yes, Newcastle United won in the League Cup here this season, but they'd won once in the league in 5 decades at Old Trafford. This place isn't easy, whether Manchester United are good, bad or indifferent. Newcastle United never really get results here, whether they've had good teams, bad teams or indifferent teams. And to expect all of a sudden Newcastle United to rock up here and get a result was always wishful thinking, because they don't often get results here. Stupid thing about the game was they probably could easily have got a result. But that clinical nature really forgave them. And you mentioned a point earlier, I'm just going to go on to that, the chance. And Anthony Gordon, I can't criticise. I think he's been Newcastle's player of the season by far. Yeah. And this is going to sound hypercritical, but it isn't meant to be. I still think if you're talking about an elite players, he still lacks something. He's still got more to learn. And I've said that all season. Not maybe looking from a negative standpoint, this isn't again, maybe sounds it, but it isn't. I always think Anthony Gordon's still got more to give. I think he's going to get better. He's got more improvement to make.
That's part of the exciting part about Anthony Gordon. You still feel like, as good as he has been, he has got another level to step up.
But that was the obvious one today. He is Newcastle's threat, as you said, throughout the game. Always an issue for anybody, whether he's on the right, left, through the middle, wherever he is. Beat a man. But that final product with 11 goals and as many assists as that, or whatever he's got this season, you still always think there could have been more. There could have been more today. I think for that Isak chance that hit the bar eventually after the amazing tackle by Amrabat, I think it's Anthony Gordon that gives Amrabat a chance. It's a 2-on-1 situation, playing against a centre midfielder who looks like he's running through treacle most of the time. 2 blokes who will literally out sprint him running backwards, and he doesn't draw the man. He allows Amrabat half a chance to get to Isak. I think that's a goal in most other opportunities. They wasted that. Anthony Gordon, most of the time, having beat his man, puts that in the bottom corner, the chance in the second half. There's moments in this game, most of the time, Casemiro, who's looked like an old man, he's looked like an OAP for much of the second half of the season, turned into prime Franz Beckenbauer for about half an hour in that first half. Yeah. Heading balls off the line, winning tackles, all kinds of things. Was outstanding today. Amrabat was very good in midfield. I actually think this was on Newcastle United, not on Manchester United. I don't think Manchester United upped their levels today to a point where you'd say, you know what, they were better, they deserved that. They didn't. They were just the Manchester United that's been getting beat off everybody. The thing is, Newcastle didn't create. They created chances and didn't take them. But even for me, when you look at the amount of chances created by other teams when they played Manchester United, still Newcastle didn't do that here. And it's the same old story. Newcastle United at St James's Park is a different beast. Come away from home, whether that be at Fulham where they won, whether that be at Burnley where they won handsomely, whether that be at Old Trafford, whether that be at Selhurst Park, Newcastle haven't played well away from home, even though they've got results recently. And I'm not going to complain, because it's got them in this position. But to say that this was a surprise, that they didn't take their chances and didn't produce loads of opportunities, it was smash and grab at Fulham. They were thoroughly well beaten at Palace. For half an hour at Burnley, it was a bit touch and go, probably 25 minutes. It wasn't great.
It was a terrible start, but once they scored the first goal, I mean, they never looked back.
It seems really odd to be this, sounding this critical, but I think you've got to look at these things. They haven't really been playing that well, but they've been getting good results, I would say. Take out Tottenham, which was an outstanding performance. You cannot fault that. Even go back to West Ham. The season was on a knife edge in that second half against West Ham, and they've went and pulled something out the bag that I didn't believe was possible. And I think anybody who said they didn't have doubts, who was in that stadium that day, 52,000 there, anybody who didn't have doubts in that second half about the direction that this season was going, that Newcastle were going under Eddie Howe, in that moment will be lying to themselves and they'll be lying to everybody else, because we were there, and I mentioned it, and I've mentioned it many times, I felt it. You could feel in that stadium, everybody, there was palpable tension, palpable frustration. The team deserve massive credit, and the manager does as well, because I've liked a lot of what they've done since then, the tactical nuances, the changes. I think he got certain things wrong. I'm frustrated with his selections today. I'm really frustrated with him, and that's okay to say. I don't like how Nick Pope's been fit for 2.5 weeks. I don't like how Joe Linton's been fit enough to be on a bench for 3 weeks and hasn't been put in that team, because he's a better player than Elliot Anderson. I'm not saying Elliot Anderson might that's not a judgment on Anderson, but he's a better player now than Elliot Anderson is, and you need your best players when you need to win games, especially places like this. You can't come to places like this without your best players. You can't come with them sitting on the bench.
But he got asked for that afterwards, and he said, I've got players back, but the many years I don't as well, because they're lacking that sharpness. But I agree with the sentiment, is why are you putting them on the bench? If they're not ready, why are you putting them on the bench? It's okay getting the 20 minutes there and then, but I mean, spoke about in the pre-match video, I completely agree, you've got to play your best players. Nick Pope, I mean, you look at Dubravka's performance today, and Nick Pope, I think Dubravka's done okay, as I've said, but Nick Pope is your number one goalkeeper. He probably gets closer to some of them shots than what Dubravka got today.
You see that third goal and the sort of
That's the one.
barrage of tweets which were almost identical from a lot of fans who are either follow or on the hashtag NUFC, the hashtag, it was Nick Pope would have saved that.
Yeah, and I can't disagree with anybody. And that's, again, it's we're in the game here of being hypercritical, by the way, because we're not talking about Newcastle United as just floating, going through the motions in the middle of the table where you accept a bit of mediocrity, you accept this, you accept that. We're in the mix. We're in the mix at the top end of this division where finest of margins matter. So the fact that Martin Dubravka isn't a top end goalkeeper and isn't making top end goalkeeping saves has to be criticised. The fact that Emil Kraft is playing at centre half in a team fighting that was in the Champions League this season isn't acceptable. It's a long way off where this team should be. There are always reasons as to why the squad is the way it is. It's been a big acceleration, but we're coming up to a point in the club's trajectory now where phase 1 was successful. Now phase 2 involves winning trophies. Phase 2 involves becoming a regular European team, is competing, finishing in Europe. They might miss out this season, and everybody who's involved with Newcastle United within, whether anybody out here wants to believe that or not, they will be very disappointed if they don't make Europe this season. And if they're disappointed, you should be too. You should be disappointed. You can make all the excuses in the world about why. There are lots. It has been a struggle. It's been hard to love the game of football at times this season, such has been the pain. I remember that January, go back to the January where it was such a struggle, and then you had Darren Eales come out and it was negative, we're not going to spend any money, and then it was, we're linking him away and he's going to go and Trippier's going to go all of a sudden. I remember that Saturday where it was like the story broke. It was like, bloody hell, what's going on here? We've just had Eales say this, we've just struggled in this game, we're kind of by win, we've gone out the Cup, we've gone out the Champions League. It's like, when is this going to end? Somehow they've grasped all of those jigsaw pieces and put together something to put themselves in a position to get where they are. They deserve a lot of credit for that. But in the way that we have to look at this and we have to progress, all those jigsaw pieces shouldn't be put back together now. They're broken up. You can't make the jigsaw in the same way that it was made this season. And that's what Eddie Howe needs to realise. I'm not saying he does or doesn't. I don't know what he'll do. But the room for sentiment with certain players in this squad has to go. I'd rather have Newcastle ran with a lesser size squad with more quality than just have inflated lack of quality in the squad. And there are names. I refuse to name names. Was it Crystal Palace?
Yeah.
Martin Dubravka, Emil Kraft, Jacob Murphy to an extent, even though he had an assist. There's levels to this game, and you've got to start saying, if the team wants to progress, are they the level of players that remain in the team? Sean Longstaff, Elliot Anderson. I'm not criticising all of these players I mentioned have individual qualities, have added something to this team this season. Martin Dubravka made a couple of great saves in the first half.
Yeah, he did.
As well as not getting to the third goal. Made a fantastic couple of low saves. I can't remember who it was from, maybe Garnacho. Early doors. Emil Kraft, in patches, has been brilliant for Newcastle United. Does Emil Kraft play for any other team in the Premier League on a regular basis? Probably not one outside of fighting relegation. So does that mean he deserves a place in Newcastle United squad? I don't think he does.
Well, he wasn't in Newcastle's squad for the Champions League, which
Exactly.
is I was going to touch on before. Obviously, injuries probably dictated that a little bit. But yeah, Emil Kraft now is Newcastle's starting centre-back in terms of tonight anyway, and then fortunately Fabian Schär's back, so you imagine he would start at the weekend. But yeah, I actually asked Eddie Howe about Kieran Trippier starting tonight, which we touched on, and he actually said his hand was forced a little bit with the ligamento injury, and suggested that ligamento may well have started because Kieran Trippier
didn't look
ultimately looked off the pace.
Looks nowhere near. He looks nowhere near.
He looked like a 33-year-old who hasn't played in 2 months, which is exactly what he is. And we've made a lot of Kieran Trippier, and at times he has raised the bar and looked almost superhuman beyond his years, aged like a fine wine. But tonight he did look like the 33-year-old who lacks a bit of pace, who hasn't played in 2 months, which he probably showed shades of back in December.
Yeah, he did. He looked like he was going off the boil then. I think like that first goal looked like a bloke who hadn't played for quite some time.
I actually think the second goal he was a bit of fault for as
I'll
well,
have to see
because
it
the corner, it shouldn't have been a corner in my opinion. I think Kieran Trippier was
he did. He was switched. It was a few times where it's like, come on, switch. I think I said you didn't. I was like, come on, switch on. Sometimes he just didn't seem.
There's a bit of that from Jacob Murphy as well. I think down that right side, in general, even though that's where Newcastle's goal did come from, the first one, just a little bit on the back.
So let's go further. Miggy Almiron's another one.
Okay.
Like these are players that Newcastle's got to look at and say, is this the level we're at? If you keep too many, you'll stay at the same level. Can we take a risk? Can we move players on? And can we get better players in? That's essentially what they've got to do this summer.
But are they victims of their own success because they've came so far so quick, where you've been left with these players, and the only way you can move these players on is time?
Yeah. No. There's absolutely reasons as to why they are where they are, but I do question the mentality. I questioned it last summer. I'm not gonna lie. I was very surprised to see players like Matt Ritchie given another year, and Paul Dummett. I was surprised to see them get another year last year. I don't think it will be a good sign if they got a year again.
No, I don't know.
And I don't think they are, but we don't know that.
Not for sure.
Because there's already holes in the squad in terms of the 25.
But can you use this season, and I keep saying it, as a learning curve and a bit of a reality check as to what they need in terms of players you can and can't keep?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, you talk about sentiment, I think the sentiment was there because of what the squad achieved last season. But that sentiment now is probably out the window, if you like, because they've dropped off.
Go back sorry, did you watch the overlap interview with Eddie Howe?
Yes.
There was hints there that the sentiment is there still. I think I'm not 100% certain that the wholesale changes will come. I don't think he's the type of manager. You hear people talk about the advice that he's given to other managers when teams have got promoted. He's always said the way he succeeded at Bournemouth was sticking with the core and just trying to add bits to that, but keeping the majority. Well, I think that'll happen again. I think you'll keep the majority and just try to add bits of quality. That might be enough. Look, they're a million miles off the Champions League this season, really, in all honesty. But, a couple of results here and there, a bit more luck with injuries here and there, a few less cup games if they don't get into Europe, they might not be far off with this squad. But is this what we're going to accept? Do we want to still play next season with the right-hand side of Murphy and Almiron? Do we want to see Emil Kraft playing 15 games next season? Do you want to see Matt Ritchie coming on at the end of games to try and rescue things? Do you want Paul Dummett coming on to have to sit in? Do you want Martin Dubravka having to play 75% of the season? It's questions that I think they're all legitimate. I think they're not great, and it's improvements that need to be made. I want to go back to something I just said before. I mentioned Sean Longstaff, I mentioned Elliot Anderson, I mentioned Emil Kraft, Jacob Murphy, others. That's not an individual criticism of these players, it's just progress. Elliot Anderson could be a fantastic footballer for this team. I like Sean Longstaff in doses. I think when you're relying on Sean Longstaff to be a main midfielder season after season, most teams, when they get to the level Newcastle are, would probably say, can we make improvements? I think they try to do that with Tonali, so it's not really reinventing the wheel, me saying that. But I think you've got to look at the rest of the team and say, Miguel Almiron, can you make improvements? Do they need a goalkeeper if Nick Pope falls injured? Do they need somebody who can step in and probably put in better performances than has been so far? They haven't had a backup at centre half really. Lascelles came in and did really well, but again, you're talking about Jamal Lascelles. Does Jamal Lascelles get a game for? And these are really hypercritical, harsh things to say. Does he get a game for any other team in the top half of the Premier League? I actually think probably not.
No, he doesn't, but that's why Newcastle are looking
they need
to
strength.
strengthen
They need to. And they will. They will.
I think the frustration is, and we don't like that minute, but I think in many ways it just takes time. It's like
it does.
It's a PSR thing. If PSR wasn't there, I would fully expect a squad overhaul. So maybe not from the manager's one, but if the money's there, you go and spend it.
I think.
Whereas now it's like you've got to prioritise. Well, I've only got this in the budget, so okay, I need to strengthen the right hand side there, but actually I need a goalkeeper instead. It's about making the right choices. You want to overhaul. I think Newcastle need it, but I just don't know if, unfortunately, under current rules, that's just not possible, and that's the biggest frustration because Newcastle came so far last season where it felt like the project had came forward 5 seasons, when realistically, it's last season in many ways was can you say it was a one-off? Possible in terms of. I know they're close to Europe this season, but top 4 last year, was it a one-off? They haven't been miles away this year.
They've never looked like a top 4 team this season. Maybe the first couple of weeks. First day of the season.
That, and then maybe just after the international break where beat Man City in the League Cup. They've got to put a few runs together and started to look strong. To beat Palace 4-0, things like that. But then, caveat to that, the away form was generally bad, but then beat Sheffield United 8-0. But yeah, I think in terms of the squad, I'm trying to be a bit more positive here. One player who's almost taken the full season to prove his worth, but Lewis Hall, 19 years old, Old Trafford once again, another goal for him, and probably his best performance for the club, would you say?
100%.
I think that's the best. It's by some distance. He played right in front of us in that second half, and it was so obvious when you watched him close, like the engine that he had in that second half. He was the furthest player forward at one point and got back to stop a certain goal in about the 90th minute. It was like, to watch that was unbelievable. The lad hasn't got blistering pace either, and to watch the lung busting runs, he was up and down all day, outside of Anthony Gordon constantly. Lovely left foot on him, and that's not just the goal. Like, some of his crossfield passes look.
I think he misplaced like one pass forward, like all evening,
probably.
Really.
But it's been one of them that the legitimate question marks everybody had about the summer. We've talked about it loads during our season on here in Geordie Journos. The summer wasn't good enough. The summer wasn't this. It's actually taken right till the end where a lack of options has almost forced Lewis Hall to be thrown in. He wasn't defensively, he admitted himself, he wasn't quite up to the level needed to play in this team. So it hasn't been a case. I've seen somebody on the live say to me, they went, well, if he played all season, we would have seen this from the start. I don't agree with that.
No. You look at him.
He wasn't the same player, whereas he's a different player now and he's a different beast. I think next season is a fantastic opportunity for him. I'm really excited about that. Then you've got Livramento on the other side. If he can get his injury situation right, where he has been picking up a lot of bits and bobs, and if he can get that right, 2 very good fullbacks, and that was one of the criticisms of the summer, is that did the summer business work? I actually think the focus of the summer business now goes on to the other 2, rather than Hall and Livramento. It goes on to Tonali, who hasn't been neither use nor ornament this season because of certain things that have gone on, and Harvey Barnes, who has flattered to deceive when used at times, but other times has looked quite good in dovetailing with the players around him. I think there's still a lot of proof from those 2. So, thoughts?
No, I think you're right. We've made a lot of the summer transfer business where you thought Hall and Livramento were the signings for the future, and then Barnes and Tonali were the ones for the here and now, really. And it's almost been none of them were for the here and now, and then back end of the season it's come Hall and Livramento have actually come to the fore, and Livramento was always viewed from an early stage the best signing of the summer almost by default, because he was the only one really
contributing,
having a positive impact on the side. And now I think, okay, Livramento won't play again this season, but generally he's had a solid first season for the club, and Lewis Hall past month has probably been one of Newcastle's best players.
It's probably been an audition for the summer, because I think had you asked this question what I needed in the summer 6 months ago, you would probably said a left back.
Yeah.
Whereas Lewis Hall now is
Getting better by the game.
He's almost proved
fantastic today.
Put himself in the shop window for being that starting left back, and that's what Newcastle needed, and that was why I was so frustrated in the summer. It's because it felt like they signed a left back that needed 3 years to progress.
Yeah,
when
we
actually
needed a loan in his championship.
We said that, didn't we? It was like almost he needed sent out on loan to bloody Derby or something to go and play 40 games in the lower division, but not now. I think now it looks like
he looks like the player we thought would sign.
Proper left back. It's been so refreshing to see a proper left back play left back in these last few weeks. Yes, there were still some wrinkles to iron out at Fulham. I think he got done by a Wobie and he got turned inside out by a Dharma, but there will happen. Yeah, he's only 19.
Yeah.
And I think it's been one of the real positives to take from the back end of the season is Lewis Hall. I think a lot of credit, because it can't have been easy for him.
No.
He was playing at Chelsea, he was loved there, he's made a big move, his family are all Newcastle fans, and it was not the dream that he thought it would be. It actually takes a little bit of mental strength to maybe come through that. We could be talking about a tough cookie here. I think I like what I've seen from Lewis Hall, and onwards and upwards for him, because we've had constructive criticism. I remember at Dortmund, Bournemouth, places like that, where it was just the lad looked so out of his depth it was unreal.
Or even last time here where he scored the goal and there was big fanfare over him, and you were like,
he still wasn't right defensively. He looks right now. He's going to have his moments, but he looks right. I'm really impressed. I think that's one of the best things we could take from recent times. Livramento's fallen off a little bit, but I think that's probably the injury.
Well, he was injured last game, as you could tell, and we touched on it in our last video, and now it's transpired that he did pick up an ankle injury in that game, and I think his performance reflected that.
Lovely left foot.
Lewis Hall, yeah.
Just everything about Lewis Hall.
Tino's left foot's lovely as well.
He's talking about left back. Sorry, I was. Do you know what? You were talking there. I just drifted off in a little. I was thinking, Lewis Hall, man.
Yeah, I love him.
I do. No, I think there's a lot of positive to say about him, and I wasn't sure about it. I really was not sure.
No.
I mean, he needs to do it over a sustained spell. He has only started 6 of the last 8 games, which is his best run this season, and to judge him off that is possibly slightly premature, but we can only judge on what we've seen, which has been, over the past month or so, has been really impressive.
The moment so I talked before, and I talked about the palpable, the feeling in that stadium, West Ham.
It was him.
And West Ham was, Lewis Hall lit the fire for this, to put them in a position.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
He came on, and I've never seen energy like it for a long time.
Yeah.
He charged about, he won headers against blokes 1.5 foot taller than him. He was flying into challenges.
How small is it?
He was flying into challenges. He was just everywhere, and everything you wanted a player to be coming into that situation. He lit
Little Lewis Hall.
Little Lewis. He lit that fire that's put them in this position, in my opinion. make me laugh now. Hey, we got beaten now. They were always laughing. We're always trying. Look, at the end of the day, it's a game of football. It means so much to us as it does to you out there as well, I'd imagine. But you've got to make light of it, and we try to on the Geordie Journals.
1 game left. They can still get Europe, which would be a great achievement.
Should do a live watch along for the FA Cup final if Newcastle win on the last day. Edit that out.
No, you don't have to edit that out. No. You don't have to edit that out. I'm just not sure what I'll be like on it.
Effing and blinded.
Probably. Had a couple of swear words in the Newcastle world
VAR
analysis.
Get on that.
You talk about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, it's a game where Newcastle have missed ample opportunities, 2 1-on-1s, few chances. Big talking point after the game for Anthony Gordon, Eddie Howe definitely, and Bruno on Twitter even chimed in, or X even chimed in.
What did he
Wordless.
Say? It was just the emoji like
zip face.
If I say anything, I'll be in trouble. But yeah, Anthony Gordon, he's almost through on goal. Casemiro challenges, gets the ball away. That looks like a good challenge, is a good challenge by the looks of it. Amrabat, he's tugging on his back, studs down the back of his heel. Anthony Gordon goes down, touched on it on the live. Anthony Gordon didn't appeal it because he was so sure it would be a penalty because a VAR check that would come, and then VAR did not intervene. So he said, what's the point? It either needs scrapped or it needs to get a lot better. And then Eddie Howe added to the conversation by saying, well, yeah, it's a Stonewall penalty, and how it's not given, how VAR doesn't intervene, I'm not sure. And then it sort of lent itself well into the conversation that's emerged today about VAR potentially being under discussion to whether to scrap it or not by Premier League clubs. And Eddie Howe was posed that question, and he said, look, I would prefer, or his opinion is that the referee's decision should be given more power, and VAR does take that away to some degree. So yeah, I think it's, look, disappointing result tonight. It's not sour grapes to say Newcastle should have had a penalty, because it was a Stonewall penalty. Whether it would have changed the course of the game remains to be seen, or cannot. It's all hypothetical. But yeah, what did you think?
I like VAR. I don't think VAR is a problem. I think it's the people it's the people that use it.
The what, Liam?
Knackers.
The knackers.
It's not the tech, it's the knackers who use it.
The thing that really bugs me about refereeing is it's so by the book. Just apply a bit of common sense, man. Yeah. There's rarely ever any common sense of it. It's always got to be by the book, the rules, whatever.
But common sense would have been.
I never know which book they're reading from, by the way. They rewrite the book every week, don't they?
It's just so it's so frustrating. If it means keeping VAR on its current form and it's the same crappy decisions every week, then bin it. But if you can keep VAR and get better people to use it, it's a working system. Yeah. I'm sure there's better examples of how it's applied abroad. You can probably even see it World Cups to some extent. I think the first World Cup VAR came in. It was brilliant. And then it just gets over and more complicated every single season. And I'm not ranting about VAR off that decision today, because I don't think it really had a bearing on the game. Newcastle, okay, they would have won 1-1 at half time, but they still weren't equalised. I'm not saying Newcastle lost that day because of that penalty decision. And realistically, I don't think Newcastle have had too many VAR decisions against them this season, apart from Paris Saint-Germain. But in terms of the Premier League, we were talking on the way down. I don't think there's many in the Premier League that's gone against them. And
no, not really.
So as I
probably
say,
had more for than against. Let's be honest.
I'd say so, and that makes your point even stronger. It's not coming from a place of bitterness.
Yeah.
It's actually just coming from a want for fairness. And Newcastle have probably had the lion's share this season, bar obviously the major one, which we've talked about many times on here. You just want fairness. It's the tech isn't a problem. I don't know why people have to be scared of tech. Sometimes tech like this can improve decision making.
It should.
Look at rugby, man. It's common sense, and it's I think the hidden nature of these stupid little conversations between one bloke and three blokes in a room and the earpiece, the referee. Get this. Everywhere's got screens, apart from our rubbish one at St James's Park, by the way.
These stand up here to see it.
These stand up be knackered. They'll be trying to reach around. Reach round? No, we won't go there. There be screens everywhere, right? Get it. It's tickled you on it. Not like that, I hope.
No.
We'll save that for later. Right.
Oh, but he just wants to go home.
He does. He's been waiting half an hour. We're all driving home. We're still in the car park of the Theatre of Dreams, as it says behind you. Stupid name.
We need to get you off this camera.
I'm delirious. I'm delirious.
It's been such a disappointing night, and we've done nothing but laugh on this.
No, look, people will be watching this. They'll be disappointed.
You need cheering up after a...
What was I even saying? Get the screen up, right?
Yes.
Let's talk. Let's have a referee mic'd up. All the crowd. We're all adults here. Why can't we hear that conversation? Why can't we hear? Can you see that properly? Yeah. Show it again. Give us a different angle, like they do in rugby. What do you think about that? What do you think? No. I can't really see it properly. Can't give it. Right, no problem. Move on.
Yeah.
What's the problem? We're all adults. We're not saying people don't make mistakes. Of course they're going to make mistakes, whether you've got the best people in the world. But let's just have a bit of transparency about it, instead of all this secret hiding away. Like, oh, how did they make? Oh, we'll only release the audio for that one thing.
Exactly.
Get it all out.
But even the lines this season for offside, just took away the lines.
I don't know who's drawn them. I said this in the car on the wheel.
Yeah.
Like the one I go back to is the Newcastle Isak at Luton, which could have changed things. I think that's the only one I can think of with Newcastle where I've thought the lines are just like...
It's like at Liverpool last season.
It looks like it's been drawn by a 5-year-old with a crayon. Like, it's so wonky. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like you said, the FA Cup semi-final one. Like,
Yeah, over his foot.
it's just what on earth? How is in this modern age where you've brought all this, got all the money, the Premier League is one of the richest sporting institutions on the planet, and you've got 3 blokes going, does that look about right? Get the tape measure out, is that one straight?
Considering
Seriously?
Rulers and crayons.
How can you do
considering how successfully they implemented goal line technology.
Oh, no.
and It
It's
came
brilliant,
into
the goal
effect
line.
today as well, with Dan Burn having the header cleared off the line. That came in seamlessly, worked brilliantly. Should have probably came in a lot sooner than it did. How you can't do the same for offsides, and I think it's coming in actually next season, the semi-automated offside.
It should be good, yeah.
Which Eddie
Well,
Howe said he
depends.
welcomes that. He said
'cause-
offside.
because there's no ambiguity to it, is it? There's no wiggle
Yes.
room. It's like
Well-
it's either on or it's off.
Well, then it becomes, is that person active? And there is still some, I mean, active participant in the game and stuff like that. So there's still subjective. They're either offside or they're not. But yeah, there's still grey areas to everything in this. So it's just a mess. And Eddie Howe actually said on the VAR thing, it's not so much that the referee didn't give it. If the referee doesn't give it, that's the referee's decision. That's final. He respects that. It's VAR just not getting involved.
It's just
what's
crap.
The point in
It's
it?
crap, like you said. When you've got one bloke make a mistake, it's accountability. I can look at that one bloke and say, "You've made a big mistake. You got it wrong." When there's 4 blokes making the same mistake and 2 blokes running the line who can't see it either,
Or
and a bloke
reversing
who's,
a correct
who's
decision.
cuddling an assistant managers on the sidelines and passing boards around for substitutions, he can't see. There's about 8 of them looking at the same thing and they all make mistakes. That's unacceptable.
It is.
I'm gone. No. We're being silly
This is
now.
unacceptable.
We've been round the houses tonight, as always.
But anyway.
Yeah.
If you didn't see the live, check that out. There was a couple of good cameos. Matthew Raisbeck from BBC Radio Newcastle had a good 5-10 minutes on there. We saw a little bit of Eddie Howe, didn't say anything. A little bit of Steve Bruce in the background, and you were on as well. You were the 4th cameo
Yeah.
on the night. What a big conversation, didn't we?
Yeah, just about the game. I think we've touched on it
Yeah, in this one as
in
well.
this one as well. So, yeah, we're good.
Word for the sponsors. I think that's
Yes,
where we
go
go.
on,
isn't it?
Liam.
4 Rivers Financial Planning for all your holistic investment and pension advice. Check them out. I know some of you guys already have out there. Got a little message from our sponsor saying he'd be really pleased to hear from some of you guys out there. I'm not sure whether it was PSR questions or anything about their actual pensions, but he was pleased to get involved in the
What's
conversation
Newcastle's
too.
budget this summer?
Yeah. Go to 4 Rivers Fashion. Don't. I don't think he needs that kind of thing. But yeah, fantastic to have a sponsor on board. If anybody else wants to get involved with the Geordie Journos, we absolutely love it, and it helps support the kind of things that we're going to be doing. Use these 2 guys. Obviously, you know, I'm the editor of the Shields Gazette and Newcastle World in a normal day job. Shields Gazette, Newcastle World. We aren't going to Australia. We'll have to make that very clear. We'll actually try and do some decent content during that week as well, just to keep things ticking over. Yeah. But we've just had the go ahead. They're both going. The main men. The 2 Geordie Journos, not me, I'm sitting at home. 2 Geordie Journos are going to be in Tokyo following Newcastle United every step of the way. Massive news. Yeah. Thoughts, boys? Come on.
Well, yeah, well, I mean...
It's all right. They were so excited before. They're probably half asleep now. It's so late. What time is it? 25 to 1. But still,
We're driving back tonight
I've
as
got
well.
to drive back now.
Well, yeah. It was good news while we were driving down, but I think me and Jordan were very much in game mode.
Yeah.
We're playing a big game tonight, and maybe in a month's time when we actually start getting plans drawn up for what we're going to do video-wise, content-wise, that's when the reality will kick in. But good to be there, and if anyone has any ideas for the type of content they'd like to see in Japan, obviously we'll be busy with our actual jobs as well, so please bear that in mind. We're not going to do hour-long montages of Tokyo or anything like that, but we'll try and provide plenty of original content as well.
Well said. Well said.
But in the meantime,
good night, good morning, wherever you're watching this, whatever time, whatever corner, konnichiwa, whatever corner of the world you're watching this from. We love getting involved with you guys. We love your comments. We love your likes. We love your shares. Click the bell. You know the drill. That's what you get from the Geordie Journos. It wasn't a great night in Manchester, Salford. Yeah, Old Trafford. Wasn't a great night. But we try to put a smile on your face all the same. Good night, good morning from the Geordie Journos.